The 9-game winning streak has come to an end in game one of the doubleheader on Wednesday. Cardinals lose 2-1 to the Phillies in Philadelphia this afternoon. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Brenden Schaeffer here on Cards Hub Postgame. All postgame shows brought to you by Hot Shots, home of St. Louis sports fans since 1990, and all content here on Sports Hub STL brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Brenden, a 2-1 loss, a lot to kind of get to, a few things to dissect, but oddly enough, none of the things that I am upset about, none of the things I really want to get into and that I know we're going to get into kind of in depth, none of those things really had weighed in on the outcome of the actual game when you look at the results of some of the things that I would second guess.
I agree with what you're saying there, because we'll talk about, I think one of the key spots in the game was the sixth inning where they stick with Fetty to get those first couple of outs and then go to Matz. I think there's a lot of intrigue to that spot. There were a couple of other interesting spots. This feels like playoff baseball in May. I said it after Monday. I'm saying it again after game one this afternoon. These are two teams pitching at a really high level right now, and the margins are slim. And in this case, I would say what did cost the Cardinals was you get first and second, nobody out. You make a decision on, hey, we're going to try to bunt with Donovan. Doesn't pan out. He moves the runner anyway. You still are in a favorable enough scenario with your number 4 and number 5 batters coming up, Joe, and they couldn't come through in that key spot late. And so that's probably where this game is lost for the Cardinals. But this was a highly competitive, quality baseball game, I would say, for the second time in a row in this series. You can't win every day, but guess what? You can still win this day because, of course, the Cardinals will play again tonight. But that was just that's the kind of loss where you go, I want to be really mad about something, but it was just really good quality on both sides, and you came up a little bit short.
Yeah, you and I were texting pretty much the entire second half of the game today, and everything too. Anything that I questioned, anything that I was like, I'd do this differently, and in the end, again, it just didn't matter. And you look at some of the things. I mean, the drop fly ball in center field between Walker and Victor Scott. You get the next guy out in that one. Going to Matz in the situation that they did, it worked out for them, and he continued to pitch a little bit after that. Donovan late in the game, where his plate appearance again, what ended up happening is something different that I would have done, but the result was there. It's those things that you kind of look at and you go, okay, you know what? They just won 9 games in a row. It's okay to go 9-1 in your last 10 games. That's fine. They'll play again tonight. And I got to say, Jesus Christ, the commenters so far in the YouTube chat.
I already put one in timeout. I'm not doing it today. I put one in timeout. I didn't know you could do that, but I put one of them in timeout.
I mean, absolutely just miserable after you lose a game. After winning 9 straight, just straight up miserable on a Wednesday afternoon with a game left to go and your ace on the mound. My God, people.
Let's talk about it. What are you most upset about? Put it in the comments, everybody but that one guy. Give us your thoughts.
Comment. Nobody's going to read it.
No, it said 300 seconds is the timeout. I didn't even know that was a feature. We're learning about how to use YouTube. I thought timeout was a funny
timeout for 5 minutes.
I thought that was a funny phrase for like a grown adult. I'm like, you're in timeout. I don't even say that to my 2-year-old. Okay. Anyway, what are we most mad about? Let's talk about that spot. You mentioned they didn't handle it exactly the way you would have when it comes to Brendan Donovan. I don't know if I would have bunted at all. And you kind of see why. You got the result of the bunt. You move the runners over. And then you're reliant upon, really, there's one spot where a guy can hit a sacrifice fly. Nato pops it up. It's not a great AB. I get it. But then you have the next spot with Contreras, but there's 2 outs. You have to get a base hit to be able to cash in. I felt that bunting at all puts the Phillies in a spot where you almost map out the blueprint for them to be able to get out of that jam. Granted, if one guy comes through with just a clutch piece of baseball, even if it's a sac fly, that's enough. I get it. But you're limiting your ways to have that big inning and not have to, result in an extra inning. Like you're playing for almost the one guy has to be able to come through with a sac fly, and that ties the game. Or Contreras, who has been one of your best hitters, I get it, has to come through in his spot, and Contreras wasn't able to do so as well. I want to hear your thought on that, Joe, because what you texted to me was interesting. You said, look, Donnie's not swinging it well right now. Have him lay it down 3 times and make sure you get that sacrifice. Essentially, that's what the result was with the right side ground. But just give me your thoughts on that, because I'd say your number 3 hitter, man, if you're bunting, that's not something you ask him to do a lot, so I'm not expecting success anyway, and you're capping your upside. Whereas if he swings away, you might be able to really put up a crooked number.
Donovan isn't a guy either, though, that has been that. He's not your prototypical number 3 hitter. Has never been that kind of number 3 hitter at any point in his career. And I don't know where, college minors, where he would have hit in the lineup that either. But you know that he can handle the bat well. And in the end result, yes, he basically fought off a pitch on the inside and grounded the ball where he needed to ground it to essentially get a sacrifice. But even in the at-bat, even when he squared around to bunt the 2 times, he just didn't look comfortable up there. And I just think it was a situation, lefty versus lefty. You're going up against, one half of the closer by committee, I guess, that the Phillies are going with right now, with Alvarado Alvarado with 2 saves or 6 saves already on the year, and you're bringing him in the top of the 8th inning to essentially take on the top of the lineup. And that was in the Phillies' mind, that was their save situation right there. They needed to get through that with their best pitcher. Sure would be nice if the closer for the Cardinals was capable of doing that. And
I don't know if I agree. But I understand the sentiment. I don't think I agree, but continue.
But again, you could tell that all they wanted him to do in that situation was move the runners over. And I think it was very telling that 99-mile-an-hour fastball, knee high, right down the middle, and he pulled the bat back. So Donovan was not seeing the ball at all. And I think overall that at-bat was just not going to go well for him if he was up there to swing. Therefore, it's a situation where, hey, your job is to get those 2 guys over. You're going up there and laying all 3 down.
The one argument I would make is he's in an 0-1 count because they asked him to do something he doesn't normally do. And so then he's in kind of guess mode, defense mode, and that, like you said, taking that 99 at the knees, I feel like it puts you in a hole where it's hard to be able to do a very good job of anything else other than, hey, let's find a productive out. Ultimately, they got the situation that they managed for and that they played for. And yes, you want to see Arenado come through. You want to see Contreras come through. Playoff baseball is the best against the other side's best and finding a way to get it done. That's why I keep using that term. It felt like that today. It felt like that Monday. The Cardinals, there were 10 different ways on Monday you could have found the Cardinals to have lost that game, but you get really good relief pitching. This is the first time, and I think they said 23 innings that a reliever has given up a run. That was an inning where some things don't go your way. I thought the part at second base was what was correctly called by the umpires, where the helmet comes off. It's bad break for the Cardinals there because he tags the helmet, but the helmet's not on his body anymore. And so that extends the inning. Donovan can't quite get to that dribbler. And then at least the umpires, I thought we were going to see a cavalcade of some crazy comments here. If they had said, hey, he was blocking the plate, the Phillies run scores. At least they got that one right. But, it's just one of those games where things were close.
Yeah, and that too. I'm sitting there. I was driving home as that play came, the play at the plate happened, and I'm listening to that. And really, for all 3 of those, there were 3 key challenges in there, and I was just going off of what John and Ricky were talking about on the radio broadcast, listening to that, and they were shocked by all 3 results in that little time frame. In that, I guess it was over an inning of play when those happened. So I know we sat here during that Pirate series and complained about some of the challenges that were made. Challenges right now just are not going the Cardinals' way. So yeah, it was good to see the play at the plate not go against the Cardinals, and they end up benefiting from that there in the call standing when it did. Eric Fetty was again fantastic on the mound. I believe it's 16 2/3 innings right now of scoreless baseball for him, as he went in there and gave the Cardinals a chance. Steven Matz comes in and gets them out of a jam in that game. And I know a lot of if you're sitting here and we're talking about what is it that we are mad about, what things are we complaining about, I think leaving Matz in there after the 2 singles, that's what people are saying is one of the issues that they had in the game tonight? Your or I guess this afternoon, your question or your
Yeah,
your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it wasn't even an issue. I thought it was interesting where you're in that tight spot in the sixth inning. Bryce Harper's spot comes up, and I knew coming in Eric Fetty's numbers against Harper. I should say Harper's against Fetty. Harper has absolutely mauled Eric Fetty throughout their respective careers in the major leagues. And I was like, I would be surprised after the first at bat of the game when Harper hit it so high. That's the only reason it didn't leave the yard. The 42-degree launch angle was the only reason there. And then a double in the second at bat. I thought he wasn't going to face him again for a third time. But you get into that spot, it's still a 0-0 game. I thought it was a very interesting spot in this game where with Fetty, you keep him through that spot with Harper, but he walks him, right? So he kind of stays away from the danger and was then able to go after the next couple of hitters and get some really key outs to be able to turn things over to Matz when the Kepler spot comes up, and that's a favorable matchup. I just thought that was a really interesting spot. You and I were texting back and forth, like, is that a spot for Kyle Leahy, given, what he's done? He's not splitty. He's gotten lefties out. He's gotten righties out. He's been your best arm. But I thought that was maybe a little early in the game to use Kyle Leahy, knowing that you're playing tonight and knowing that you hadn't scored a run yet in that spot. It's the sixth inning. By the way, Leahy threw 40-some-odd pitches in 3 different innings on Monday. I just thought it was a really interesting spot where I think Oli Marmol could have gone a couple of different ways about it. And ultimately what he did worked out really well. But it maybe doesn't without Fetty, bearing down and getting a couple of key outs there to turn things over to Matz.
And Leahy had the day off yesterday, and I guess looking at it, I kind of would have, had Leahy in there to finish the inning, and then you go to Matz to start the following inning after that. That would be kind of my thought process with that. And that is kind of the thought process I have a lot of the times when it comes to Steven Matz, knowing that he is a starter at heart and knowing that you kind of want to give him that fresh inning to get things going.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that he's also now proving that he's able to be a fireman that comes in and gets an out like that and then just continues. That's a rare skill set. It's one that we've seen Kyle Leahy do as well. My thought is if you're throwing Leahy for a couple of batters in game one, you're maybe leaving some meat on the bone because they play another game tonight. Now, maybe they lose 7-1 tonight, and you go, they could have used Leahy there. But as it were, as it played out, I think Matz was going to throw multiple innings, and they said, look, we could squeeze a little bit more out of Fetty. Maybe he was being careful with Harper for that exact reason, right? Like, hey, you're going to face him, but and that's probably not the case because I doubt that conversation actually happens with a starter. Like most starters at that pitch count, you're expecting to go back out into the sixth, but it's a spot where you know where that guy can hurt you and where he's hurt you in the past. And so Fetty either was a combination of careful with Harper or was starting to wear down, and so that made him more inclined to not throw a mistake pitch and be a little bit too fine, which is why he walks him. But now you do, like you have Fetty for tonight, or pardon me, you have Kyle Leahy for tonight if you're so inclined to, be in a game where you use him, which the first 2 have been close. Ideally, game 3 is well pitched on both sides, or at least on the Cardinals side. And you have that luxury again to say, all right, Leahy, you threw a bunch on Monday. And like I do pointed out that it was pitch, sit down, pitch again, sit down, pitch a third inning. So that's a little bit different than just looking at, he threw 40 pitches. They'll have an off day tomorrow, though, as well. So I feel like you can use Leahy tonight and have a little bit more flexibility with the aggressiveness in which you may use him. That's assuming that Oli Marmol and Leahy have spoken and he's good to go today.
Cards Hub Postgame shows brought to you by Hot Shots, celebrating 35 years, and they'll be doing so at their St. Charles location Sunday, June 1st for their 35th anniversary party. The fun starts at noon with a parking lot party featuring the Budweiser Clydesdales. Also prizes given away all day long, a dart tournament at noon, a bags tournament at 2, plus a chance to win Hot Shots tacos for a year. Congratulations to Hot Shots on 35 years. Hot Shots, St. Louis's home for all the games, all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. Joe Roderick and Brenden Schaeffer here with you as we look at the Cardinals 2-1 loss of the Phillies in game 1 of the doubleheader today. One thing that a few people in the comments have jumped in on, and again, we mentioned it. If you're just now jumping in on it, we want to hear your thoughts. We want to get your what are you angry about? What are you mad about? as the Cardinals lose their first game after a 9-game winning streak. What has you just so angry at this organization that you're ready to go back and boycott them again? A few people have pointed out to the Nolan Gorman pinch hit in the 9th inning for Pedro Pages. That's the exact role. That is the exact time that you use Nolan Gorman now on this team. Nolan Gorman has kind of run out of a spot, again, passed over again, really now. I mean, he was passed over by Victor Scott and kind of Alec Burleson in spring training. Now his DH role's kind of been taken away from him by Ivan Herrera.
Yep.
Nolan Gorman is in there to hit a home run. Kind of like when Luken Baker made the team out of spring training. He was supposed to be that right-handed bat to come off the bench late in innings and hit a home run for you. Nolan Gorman was up there down 1 to tie the game, nothing more, nothing less. You're not looking for a quality at bat out of Nolan Gorman where he's going to work the count, foul off some pitches, and maybe hit a single the opposite field. Nolan Gorman's in there looking for his pitch and to hit it real far. There's just a lot of swinging and missing right now with Nolan Gorman.
There is, but that's a spot where I think with you're talking about Romano coming into that spot. The slider is really it's a nasty pitch, but he was throwing the heck out of it. And so you're hoping that maybe somebody's bat with a left-handed path through the strike zone lines up with a slider that gets hung, and that's how you find your way to a key run in the game. They did the same thing bringing Burleson up right thereafter, right? So, like, they're clearly, you know what they're looking for. I mean, again, and this isn't the commentary. We know where Jordan Walker's at. He had a big swing in this game. That was really good to see. Hopefully it's something that can catapult his game moving forward. But against Romano, you're telling me the only pitch he's locating for a strike right now is a nasty slider, Jordan Walker? Yeah, I'm going to put Burleson in that spot. Like, it's okay. It's not. I think that's the way you kind of have to manage that situation. I get the feelings about Gorman, and I get the feelings about, guys who have struggled, but he's on the team for right now, and that's a role where you're obviously going to use him, I think. So it didn't work out, but a lot of other guys didn't come up with key clutch hits today either. And again, the Phillies are going to be a team. I say this about a lot of NL teams, Joe, and eventually I'm going to have to kind of pick and choose because I say the Phillies are a team that will play deep into October. But I think I've said that about the Mets and the Dodgers too. So, like, eventually somebody is going to get knocked out of this National League race, but I think the Phillies are going to be one of those teams that is going to have something to say about it. And we're seeing why in this series. I still think it's a positive that the Cardinals are playing with them. You wish you would have been able to come up with one or two more key clutch plays, though, to win this game, because it was there for the taking, and they just couldn't quite get it done.
And as Verlis, we're going to go with Verlis, says the Gorman and Burleson bats were awful. They were. I mean, that's again how many. That's what a closer is supposed to go out there and do, though. I look at what Helsley went out. Look what Helsley went out and did on, was it Sunday or Monday? Whenever the last time Helsley went out there,
Monday against the Phillies.
Yeah, and you and I were texting about it then. I was like, "Is this going to be a 7-pitch Helsley save or a 20-pitch Helsley save?" And yeah, he went out there and struck out the first 2 guys on 6 pitches. Like, when you have a dominant closer, that is what they are supposed to do, and they are going to make the most professional, best hitters in baseball look silly up at the plate. And that's what the Phillies closer did today against the Cardinals. That's what a good closer is going to go out there and do. And there are just some times where you just kind of look at it and say, hey, give them their thumbs up and move on, and you play again tonight.
It's all you can do. It's just what the style of baseball is. And it was mentioned there by Craig. He said, I kind of prefer Burleson over Gorman. They both hit. Both of them came in, and both of them, struck out in that 9th inning. That's just the nature of the beast. And the Phillies have a couple of relievers right now that are really looking good. Like, Jordan Romano has not been great all season long, but he has been really lighting it up more recently and clearly looked comfortable today. So you throw your best at him. You look back and say, yep, that's a key spot. If Arenado is able to drive the ball a little bit deeper, maybe it's a different outcome. Instead of a pop-up, you take your best shot. I get it. Like, if the Cardinals had lost a bunch of these types of games in a row, it would be infuriating. Right now, they have to make one loss in one game that you left some meat on the bone. They have to make sure that doesn't turn into 2 tonight. And they've got their ostensible ace on the mound in Sonny Gray. So there's every opportunity to go win a series. And I think you do that, you still have some good vibes going into Kansas City. But don't let the sweep theme continue with the doubleheaders. It's okay when you're sweeping them. Don't let the other side sweep you now that you've lost game one.
But all three doubleheaders so far, the Cardinals have not split any of those. Swept in the first one, and then they have done the sweeping in the last two. Their fourth doubleheader of the year, by the way. If you saw the storylines that we posted on all the socials earlier today, Cardinals had a total of 5 doubleheaders all of last year, and so already at the middle of May, close to matching that total from last year. Second game, by the way, a 5:15 start time. I if you want to check it out, Brendan, I don't think lineups. I'm sure lineups are not out yet for that, but if they do pop up at some point before you and I get out of here, we will share those with the audience. But first pitch about 2 hours from now in that one. Jordan Walker today, another person that is going to make news, both good and bad in the game. Kind of started off with the misplay in center field between him and Victor Scott II. I saw somebody in the comments say maybe shades of Victor Scott had flashes of Dylan Carlson as the two of them were running towards each other in that. Just a complete misplay, lack of communication, something that I see out of my 11-year-olds. Not something that guys twice their age should be doing in the outfield. And then the throw to third on the play where Nolan Arenado made a great play to come off the bag and throw to second, and the tag just wasn't there. But Jordan Walker is also responsible for the one lone run the Cardinals scored today in the game, driving in Ivan Herrera there in the 7th.
Yeah, and I don't know about on the throw to third, like would the runner have kept going if the throw had come into second? Or because like it's almost one of those plays where because you've got Arenado, it's not like Jordan probably thought this through, but you can get away with it because Arenado can come off the bag and they had him at second base. The helmet comes off. That was just a bad break. I don't really care about that one that much from Jordan. It's technically the wrong play. I understand that. You don't want to concede another runner to scoring position. Not the end of the world for me in that spot, though. And like I said, they should have had the out. When it comes to that play in right center field, who do you pin that on? Is it just a lack of communication on all parties? For me, like the center fielder probably is the quarterback out there. But I also understand that the center fielder is the guy that doesn't want to get trucked by a 260-pound dude. So I think, and like whatever the answer is, I'm okay with it. But it has to have come months ago, right? And if there's a moment like that in season, you have to spend some time going, all right, what's the scenario the next time this happens? Who's responsible for what? Like I would lay that out and have a plan. And it's not to say that they don't, but clearly they just it wasn't clear enough that they were able to execute. And I think if it's consistently the same thing every time, there's a way to make sure that doesn't happen. It's a very preventable play. It's just in that spot, you can't, you just can't have those. And hopefully there's a meeting of the minds where they go, hey, I'm going to always tell you. The problem is like Vic can't necessarily do it all himself because he's not looking for Jordan. He's looking for the baseball. He's trying to track the ball. So
in that moment, though, like the replay that they showed, the camera angle that they showed, it did look like Victor Scott II gave way immediately to Jordan Walker, and it looked like Jordan Walker had a clear line to the ball. Like, looked like did. I mean, they're both thinking about
that Carlson play. They're both thinking about that Carlson play in Arizona, the last spring game before 2024. Like it's in everybody's minds for good reason. Jordan Walker is the size of a linebacker. It is what it is. They just have to, you have to have a little bit more of a communicative effort there. And like, I think it's got to probably come from Jordan to an extent where like we saw him take charge and win the game on Monday with that catch. I would say Jordan, if Jordan feels like he's got it, and I know that's not standard to say a right fielder call off a center fielder, but if you think you've got it and you're the more vocal person, then you've got it. Vic has to kind of be tracking the ball and also make sure that he's not getting blindsided by, Jordan Walker like a slot receiver going over the middle. So you have to be a little bit communicative. I think if you're Jordan, if you think you've got it, you go, hey, me. If you don't think you have it and you want to concede, there's just got to be an order of operations, I think, that they come up with, which I'm sure they have anyway. And it just was kind of a touch off in that moment, but it's fixable. And so I think you will see that get fixed hopefully here soon.
God, if you could throw it up on the screen right now, just saying that Jordan Walker not living up to expectations. God, he's 22 years old. I get this is. I mean, I get the frustration over 3 years of you're waiting for something to happen, and hitting 184 right now isn't great. But he's 22 years old, and we're going to sit here and say we're going to say that he's not living up to expectations.
I haven't seen that comment. I was looking for you.
Give me a break.
I didn't see that pop up. If you see it, you can throw it up there. But like, I think
Yeah.
it's accurate. Like, he
There it
hasn't lived up to the hype. Yeah, no, it's true, but it's also, I don't think it's over. You know what I mean? Like, I think for Gorman, it's closer to over than it is for Walker. And I'm not saying it's definitively over for Gorman, but it's heading in a direction that is tough, right? With Walker, though, I feel like there's runway that matters here. Like, he had a hit today that was the big swing of the game for the Cardinals. They needed more swings than that. But I'm not to the point of where I'm like, mentally, am I giving up? Do I have questions about Jordan Walker? Absolutely. But I feel like 2025 was supposed to play its course, and then we can start to think a little bit more about Jordan Walker. To do it in season, or to do it based on, an 0 for 12 is tough for me. I agree with that. But I also don't think the comment was wrong, Joe. Like, to this point, he hasn't lived up to expectations, but that doesn't have to be like the period and then it's the end of the book. I think there's more to be written here.
Yeah, that again, I will give a little more of a leash to a 22-year-old to figure it out, and knowing that he's thrown into a big spot in a very young age, and again, he'll get there. I think all signs will point. Broadcast today, that was the plan Monday, was that he was going to DH 2 with so out. Will you be surprised if you see Ivan Herrera in the DH for tonight? I guess, Brendan, I know I think we're having some internet problems here.
Yeah, you're losing me. So
yeah,
I kind of bounced out a little bit.
Yeah, I was just talking about Brendan or Ivan Herrera possibly catching game 2 tonight.
Yeah, that'll happen. I'm sure it will. I mean, especially after Pages took the shot in that home plate collision that wasn't a blocking of the plate, but he did come up a little bit lame after that. So I think that obviously you weren't going to have the same guy catch both games. Craig making the comment that Pozo should be catching. No, I think it's Herrera should be catching. I don't, first of all, while you're winning 9 in a row, I'm cool with keeping it the same way for sure. But they had Herrera catch a bunch in Memphis just to get back here. So I don't see why you would continue to not have Herrera back into the mix. Chewy, my guess would be that Herrera is catching. I believe they said it on the broadcast already. Jim Hayes had that. So I would expect that to be true, and it's correct. He needs to be catching. And especially a spot like this, it's really easy to find an excuse or a reason to get him back into that mix.
We will see the lineups when they come out. 5:15 start time for the game tonight. A few other baseball games going on right now. Twins continued their winning ways earlier today. That's now 9 of a doubleheader today. So will the Twins become the first team in baseball this year to get to a double-digit win streak? They'll have a chance against the Orioles later on this. That was in Baltimore, doubleheader, not giving them the little 2-hour break that the Cardinals and Phillies have right now. You have a chance to also jump on the DraftKings Pick 6 app and see what some of the numbers look like for the games today or tonight throughout all of Major League Baseball. DraftKings Pick 6. You could use the code STL Sports. That's STL Sports. New customers play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
It'll be Sarah Daly and I on the post-game show tonight following Cardinals and Phillies game 2. Sonny Gray against Aaron Nola. Brenden, what are you looking for in the matchup between those two?
Yeah, and I think part of that is the conversation we're having about Ivan Herrera getting behind the plate and getting the opportunity to pair with Sonny Gray. I think we need to see Sonny be, the number one in this rotation. A lot of guys have been contributing from the starting pitching staff recently. Can Sonny have one of those games where if this is going to feel like a playoff series, he goes 6 or 7, gives up 1 run, and allows the Cardinal bats to maybe get cooking a little bit? They've beaten Nola already this season. Can they find a way to scratch off runs? You're looking for the couple of spots throughout a 6-7 inning period where you can scratch runs across. And when you have those opportunities, you can't let them go by the wayside. I feel like that's the way this entire series has to be when you're facing guys like Luzardo, who's on his game, and Aaron Nola. That's the way it has to be. So can Sonny match that stride for stride? And maybe today, or tonight rather, the Cardinal offense, when it gets that spot like it had in the 8th inning today with Arenado and Contreras, they find a way to punch one through and the floodgates open. Trying to get right back to winning ways, I think, is important. You don't want to drop this series after winning game 1. The layoff kind of feels like it maybe killed the momentum of your winning streak. There's your best arm on the mound tonight to allow maybe a new one to begin.
You've beaten Paul Skeens twice this year. You beat Mackenzie Gore over the weekend. As you mentioned it, you've beaten Aaron Nola already this season. You're just knocking off aces one by one throughout all of Major League Baseball. So why not continue it tonight in game 2 for Phillies and Cardinals? Cardinals now dropped back to 2 games back of the Cubs with the loss in this one. Cubs and Marlins also play later tonight at 6:40 in Wrigley. We will have the post-game show for you as soon as the game ends, so make sure to like and subscribe to us here on Sports Hub STL, to our YouTube page, to all of our socials as well, so you get those notifications when we go live, not only for this, but all of our programming here on the Sports Hub STL YouTube page. Audio versions also available wherever you find your podcasts after they have been completed. For Brenden Schaeffer, I'm Joe Roderick. This has been another edition of Cards Hub Postgame, brought to you by Hot Shots here on Sports Hub STL. All content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours.